Hello and welcome to the Homes Politicast. We are back. I am doing much better at consistently doing this every week. Still don't have a consistent time, but that is the life of a citizen journalist. I don't necessarily get paid for all this, so I do it when I can. So, important news for the beginning of the show. I am going to be having an interview with Miss Robin Afric, the director of the DEI office here in Ottawa County. So, if you've been following, if you're in Ottawa County and you've watched my other videos, I've had two interviews with commissioners, Ottawa County commissioners, talking about the DEI office, talking about how Ottawa County is run. So I will be talking with her hopefully next week. So hopefully I'll have an interview for you next week. In other news, a nursing home executive speaks out about the death count of nursing homes. Charlie Leduff has the story. It is not exactly what you think. A lot of people are thinking old people died of just COVID. Well, we've got news for you. Also, we answer Karen Dumas' analysis of the Supreme Court decision on Roe versus Wade and their Second Amendment decision. She's kind of got it backwards, so we're going to set the record straight there for Ms. Dumas. A Democrat lawmaker is sentenced to jail time, and the media gives us crickets about it. Why? Well, I have a theory. I'll tell you about it. And the objective media tells us we don't need a law prohibiting drag queens in school because it's never happened here. And we all know that if it's never happened here, well, it's never gonna. You better believe it. Finally, the Gubernatorial Debates have begun, and we have a clip for you. All that and more today. I'm Anon Don, and this is the Homes Politicast. All right. Thank you again for joining me today. Your commitment to knowing what is going on in our county of Ottawa, it's a blessing to all of us that really care about how the future goes, how our children are going to be impacted by these things. So we start off today with the mainstream media telling us, oh my goodness, you don't need to worry about those drag queens in schools. I mean, that's silly. Come on now. So, Jonathan Oosting from Bridge, Michigan, super left-wing rag. I've had people tell me that it's objective, and I have gotten actually blocked by the editor-in-chief of Bridge Magazine not because I was being mean, not because I was doing something wrong, but simply because I disagreed with her views, and I gave her some counterfactual evidence. So this is Mr. Oosting's performance here. Michigan Republicans want penalty for public school drag shows. Can't cite example of it ever happening here. As if that matters. We've reported that Dana Nessel has already said that she wants a drag queen in every school. Oh, yeah, you can say, oh, it was a joke. No, it wasn't. We've had drag queens in schools in other areas. Democrats are pushing for it. They're pushing to confuse our children. We're not playing this game where they say it's a joke and everybody laughs, and then 5 years down the road, we've got drag queens reading to our children in the library. So Jonathan Oosting, super objective reporter, super knowledgeable about the past, and super up to date on what's going to happen in the future because, he knows all. So this I don't think this. Oh, this is by Jonathan Oosting. I don't know what it is. So, joined by Michigan gubernatorial candidate Tudor Dixon, a group of House Republicans on Thursday announced a new bill that would empower parents to sue public schools that expose their children to drag shows. The 6 legislators were unable to name an example of that happening in Michigan public schools, but they proposed allowing parents to sue districts for up to $10,000 if it ever does. Yeah. Yeah, the school, I mean, I don't think this bill goes far enough. I think the school should be shut down. But this is a start. So Tudor Dixon actually talked about this a little bit in her debate between the governor candidates. So we continue. Oh, and shameless plug. If you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing a lot of the show. I put these articles up so that you can read them as well as we go through them. So that you know I'm not just making up this stuff. I'm not that creative to be able to make up this stuff. Only the Democrat media is this wild. But we continue, and I digress. I don't think that we need to have a problem occur in the state of Michigan before we address it, says Representative Beau Lefebvre, Republican of Iron Mountain, who nonetheless accuses teachers of pushing this ideology on small children. Stop right there. Yes, we have seen TikTok videos of this being pushed onto small children. The Daily Wire has shown a lot. I don't know if I've ever shown one. I may look for a TikTok video of a teacher talking about pushing this ideology on students. The account Libs of TikTok does a great job of exposing those. They show like teachers that like to confuse small children. I'll look for one of those. Oh my goodness, I'm saying so much. My apologies. We continue. So nonetheless, accusing teachers of pushing this ideology on small children. Yes, that is happening. Grand Valley State University actually forces all of their teachers to go through a rigorous LGBTQ AI plus, whatever, all the alphabet soup stuff. And I know I go to Grand Valley to be a teacher. So I know the kind of crap they're pushing on these teachers. And also I know personally somebody that has applied to be a professor, and that professor was not able to get in because he's not going to push this LGBT agenda. He's not going to push this trans women are women agenda at Grand Valley, and so he was not able to even apply. So we continue. And also, I'm hoping to talk to him soon on the show. We continue. Lefebvre and other lawmakers are creating a new work group to develop additional bills to stop what he called the over-sexualization of children. The legislation comes 2 weeks after Democratic Attorney General Dana Nessel accused Republicans of focusing on fake issues in an election year and suggesting a drag queen for every school, which she described as an obvious joke. You know what? It didn't sound like a joke to me. She said drag queens are great. They make everything better. And this hasn't been poll tested, but I want a drag queen in every school. Those were her exact words. That doesn't sound like a joke. She said she was joking, but we take this as a trial balloon, said Dixon, a Norton Shores Republican who has proposed creating new criminal penalties for adults who expose kids to drag shows. We're here to fight the culture war, said Dixon, who has made a fight against school indoctrination a key plank of her gubernatorial campaign. The announcement outside the Michigan Capitol was interrupted by a heckler who repeatedly yelled "F you" at lawmakers and told them to take the guns away from people shooting students instead. Yeah, that's going to help. All right. Also, there was Sam Inglot, deputy director. I like how they say by a heckler. There was one heckler. Also, there was Sam Inglot, deputy director of the Progress Michigan Liberal Advocacy Group, who protested the press conference with signs calling bigotry a drag and urging support for gay and transgender rights. Drag shows are art, expression, affirmation, and Republicans are trying to make it something it's not, Inglot argued. They're doing it by dehumanizing and villainizing the LGBT community. It's pathetic. So, full stop right there. Here's the argument. It's not happening, and even if it were happening, it'd be a good thing. In the same article, Jonathan Osting says it's not happening, and even if it were, that'd be great. We continue. State Representative Ryan Bierman a Commerce Township Republican who is lead sponsor on the new legislation, told reporters that a Jewish temple in his district, which also operates as a private school, has advertised drag queen story time. Berman argued the events are totally inappropriate, but acknowledged his bill would apply only to public schools, not private ones or religious organizations. That's a shame. Temple Israel of West Bloomingfield, which did not immediately respond to requests for comments, has promoted vivacious drag queen story time in coordination with a Jewish library, calling them inclusive events geared toward families with children 8 and under. So it's not happening, but even if it were happening, it'd be good. And also, it kind of has happened, so this article is so convoluted. Wow, my goodness. This is the caliber of our reporters here in Michigan. Dress in what makes you feel fun and fantastic, said an online advertisement from January 2020. Wait, I thought we were all locked down in January 2020. Oh, we were allowed to have drag queen story hour though, of course. Yeah, churches, synagogues, they're all shut down. Drag queen story hour, strip clubs, and marijuana dispensaries are all allowed to stay open. Drag performers, typically men who dress in apparel usually worn by women, who spoke with Bridge, Michigan earlier this month, say they were baffled that their shows have become the center of political debate. I've never had a bad experience with these story times, said Paul Bowling of Ypsilanti, a former teacher who is now a full-time drag performer. So it's not happening, and even if it were happening, that'd be great. And it is kind of happening, and now we've got teachers that are full-time drag performers who have also done drag queen story time. You know what? I'm just going to stop right here because this is you can go on, you can read the rest of it. We're only a couple of paragraphs there from the end, but my goodness, this is the caliber of reporting that you get from Bridge, Michigan. Now, I'm not the greatest reporter, but at least I can give you a coherent worldview and a coherent story. At least I don't tell you, it's not happening, but if it were happening, that'd be good. And it's kind of happening, but also we have this teacher that's now a full-time drag performer that is also doing drag queen story time. You know what? I don't even think I need to show you the libs of TikTok thing. So we're just going to save the time on that, and we're going to move on because this bill. Okay, so number one, this bill is important. Okay, we need to protect our children from these deranged people that think that drag queen story hour is going to be a good thing for our children. If children are exposed to drag queen story hour, everybody involved in exposing those children should go to jail. Right now, we've got a $10,000 fine. Tudor Dixon doesn't necessarily have my endorsement as governor. I like another person, but I think she's doing good work and that she should continue doing good work to protect our children. The children in public school, I should say, because your children aren't my children, right? You have to protect your children. I can't do it. But Tudor Dixon is making an attempt to make it illegal, at least for the left, to show you men dressed as women reading to children. All right, we move on. State Representative Jewel Jones. There was a brief blurb on this. This has got about 1.5 articles maybe on it. State Representative Jewel Jones pleaded guilty Thursday in Livingston County Court to a probation violation in connection to a previous drunk driving conviction. His attorney, Byron Nolan, said the probation violation occurred because Jones' grandmother recently died and he was drinking, then failed an alcohol screening the next day. Jones was sentenced to 30 days in jail by Livingston County Circuit Court Chief Judge Michael Hattie. That was a mouthful. The jail time will be dismissed in exchange for Jewel completing a 30-day inpatient substance abuse treatment program. He's not even going to jail. How rude. Well, Jones was sentenced to 30 days in jail by Livingston County Circuit Court Chief. Oh, I already read that. His program will be complete next week. Then he will switch to an outpatient program, his lawyer said. Wait, what? 30. This happened when? Oh, March 17th. Okay. So Nolan said Jones would retain his Holmes Youthful Trainee Act status despite the violation. This act allows young offenders to avoid permanent criminal record if they successfully complete a probationary period. Huh. He didn't successfully complete a probationary period. Interesting. According to the White House website, the Michigan House website, the legislature was scheduled to begin session this week. We hope the best for Representative Jones' health and offer our sincere encouragement on his journey toward wellness and recovery, Michigan House Minority Leader Donna Lisinski, Democrat of Scioto Township, said in a prepared statement. All right. You know what? I don't think I need to read the whole thing. We've got what we need. We've got Representative Jewel Jones with some black privilege. He is black, so they can't do anything to him. Otherwise, it will be racist. Racist. As he's already said, actually, when he was arrested, there was a video going around. I actually showed it on the show. You can go back, you can watch it. Jewel Jones was fighting the cop. He was saying, "I know Whitmer. I know Governor Whitmer. You can't do this to me. This is racist." You know, he made all those claims, and he's still he's still under probation, I guess. So, you know, I guess my question is, why isn't the media making a big deal out of this? If a Republican had been caught driving drunk and then violated probation, regardless of the reason, they would be hammering that night and day. And we all know that because we've seen it before. Any Republican, even accused of anything, they just hammer and hammer on it until it's found that the story is either fabricated and then the news just kind of goes away, or until they're out of office and shamed for life. So why the discrepancy? Is it just because Jewel Jones is black? I don't think so. I think what we've got here is a classic case of Democrat privilege. If you're a Democrat, all of the institutions are on your side. So you get to drive drunk, be on probation for, probation for 30 days. All he had to do, no, I think it was like 6 months. I think the probation was like 6 months. I actually went into the Youthful Trainee Act. So I had a felony, got it expunged because I completed this thing. I actually completed it though. I didn't have any probation violations. Mr. Jones has not. He has proven that. I don't know. Maybe he will complete it. I hope he does. That'd be great. But I surely don't think he should be in our legislator for Michigan. This is just, it's kind of silly. And why doesn't the media make hay about this? Well, because he's a Democrat and they run cover for him. So just another reason to smash that like button and share this with your friends here in West Michigan. The news outlets are not going to show you these things. They're not going to expose you to all of the news. They're just going to expose you to news that they want you to see. So, one reason I listen to Charlie Leduff is because he has an agenda, right? And that is exposing politicians in crookedness. So, I love the No BS News Hour. It's a great show. He doesn't do what I do. He doesn't talk to local politicians. He doesn't take, like our county commissioners. He doesn't sit down with them and talk to them, have an hour-long interview up on his website for you to, peruse. He doesn't, he's not trying to preserve conservative principles, right? Me and him have different roles. I want to conserve conservative principles. I want them to be fairly represented in our culture, because when conservatives are fairly represented, generally we win the argument because it's common sense. Conservatives generally put forward common sense, as I'm about to show you with this thing Karen Dumas says, right? So Charlie is like a little left-leaning. Everybody on his show is a little left-leaning, but they are not afraid to attack Democrats. When Democrats are doing stupid things, Charlie Leduff is not afraid to take them out behind the woodshed and spank their bottoms. So, this particular show, Joe LeBlanc, is 2 years, count them, 2 years after we find out that people in nursing homes are dying at an exponential rate compared to everywhere else in the country. We find out that Governor Whitmer has held down the numbers. She's deflated the numbers by about 45%. And Charlie Leduff says that may not be all. Right? So this show is a really good one. It's an hour and 6 minutes. You put it on 1.5 speed, you get through it in 45 minutes, 47 minutes tops. So I have not listened to the whole thing because he goes on about the Republican governor's race, and of course he thinks it's a crap show. You know, he doesn't like the Republicans. He doesn't like anything that they're talking about. I do. I think that the Republicans are on the right track. They're taking on cultural, things, which is good. We need Republicans that are going to stand up for our culture. And all of these Republicans, I'm going to say, are, I think, at least willing to stand up for the culture. Tudor Dixon with her drag queen bill. Garrett Soldano repealing the 1945 law that gives Governor Whitmer almost unlimited emergency power in any emergency situation. Ryan Kelly attending, the January 6th inauguration, out there protesting the abuse of our election system. He may have had other reasons to be there. He may have thought that there was massive amounts of fraud. But as more and more evidence comes out, it seems that maybe the fraud wasn't as bad as we thought. Obviously, there's fraud in all elections, but there is still potential for future fraud, and we have got to close those loopholes so that Democrats don't, get rid of the signature verification on all of the ballots, as Jocelyn Benson did, so that Secretary of States don't take billions of dollars from Facebook and funnel them into Democrat elections, so that we don't have a massive mail-out campaign to try and get as many ignorant people as we can to send in their ballot via mail, right? We don't want to be a country where our vote is a joke. We want to be a country where we have a day that everybody comes to vote and everybody gets a fair shake at the democratic process. It's not voting season, it's voting day. So, that spiel was not actually pre-thought out, right? So the Republican governor thing, we're not taking Charlie's advice on that, but Miss Karen Dumas, I have a couple answers for you, and here we go. Here is her argument.
Uterus. Roe v. Wade struck down today. Your take?
Well, it's disappointing, Charlie. It now becomes a massive political hot potato as it falls in the laps of the states. But people have to remember that federal law takes precedent over state law. And now every time we shift leadership in every state, it's going to be an issue. The interesting thing is that the Supreme Court ruled yesterday that states were not capable of deciding whether or not, in terms of gun and their ability to carry a gun and those laws. But yet today they said, oh, sure, but you can make that decision about a woman's right to choose. I think it's unfortunate.
It's an interesting parallel, Karen. It really is.
Okay, it's actually not really an interesting parallel. And here's why. Abortion is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. Guns are. And it's not federal law that overrides state law. We know that because many states have made marijuana legal, and federally it's still illegal. So, no, federal law does not override state law, and no, it is not a good comparison because, as I said, abortion is not mentioned in the Constitution. Guns are. You cannot restrict a person's right to own a firearm. It's right there in black and white. Congress shall make no law I think it's abridging the right to, or the rights of the people to keep and bear arms. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Just got out of work. My brain doesn't always work the best after work. So it's right there in black and white. The Second Amendment. You can go read it. I may have not quoted it exactly perfectly, but I got it pretty darn close. So, Karen, no, it's not disappointing. The states now can choose whether or not they want to allow women to kill their children. Okay. And states also cannot take away a right that is guaranteed by the federal government in the Constitution. That is what the Supreme Court does, is they decide whether or not a law is constitutional. No, you cannot say that states cannot make laws against abortion because those are people. They are little people inside of the womb. They have a right to life. And the Supreme Court has no responsibility, according to the Constitution, to protect the women's right to an abortion because there is none. The Supreme Court does, however, have a responsibility to protect all citizens' rights to keep and bear arms. Okay, that's the difference between a constitutional argument and an unconstitutional argument. One is in the Constitution, the other is not. So, Karen Dumas, she tried. I don't think she got that one right exactly. So, let's move on to the next clip. Let me see how far we are in there. So, this next clip... Oh, I can't remember what it was. It was important, otherwise I wouldn't have bookmarked it. About 20, it was longer than that, about an hour ago. So we're going to listen to it, and I'm going to respond to it on the fly. Here we go.
2020 to June 7, 2021, Michigan was victim to about 14,600 COVID deaths. That means Michigan's COVID death rate has actually increased by 8% in the past year. The year of vaccines.
Whoa.
For comparison now, because you're smart, COVID deaths in the United States have decreased by more than 16%. As for our neighbors in the Midwest, COVID deaths have plummeted on average by 13%.
What?
So what gives in Michigan? Where's the old corona hysteria? By the standards of 2020, these numbers would justify new lockdowns. Not that I'm advocating for that, since they seem to have accomplished so little. Where is our mothering governor?
That's what I'm talking about. That's why I listen to Charlie Leduff. They all lean left, but he is not afraid to attack Whitmer when she is being totally two-faced. Now, he was talking about the fact that we have got more people dying right now of COVID than we did last year. After we've got the vaccines, we've got more people dying of COVID than we did in a year without vaccines. Now, I'm making no implication about the vaccine that has a 13.5% effectivity rate. I'm making no implications about drug companies that just decide to send out untested vaccines. Not making any implications about anything. What I am implying is that last year we had less deaths, and Governor Whitmer did much more to restrict our freedoms. And this is why the Ottawa County director, or the Ottawa County commissioner's race is so important. It is important, but is so followed. There are so many people getting in on this in Ottawa County. You see the signs up all over because we had a massive government lockdown, and our Board of Commissioners decided that they were going to enforce that by shutting down a school. The same thing applies to Governor Whitmer. Last year, she was all gung-ho about shutting everything down, requiring masks, requiring social distancing, requiring, she didn't ever come out with a vaccine mandate, but she definitely wasn't quashing the idea. This year, however, what's different? I think we've got a race for governor in November, and she's got a lot of opponents that are doing really good in the polls. That's probably the difference. She is being nipped on the heels by Republicans that she says are just a bunch of jerks and they question elections, and yet they're nipping on her heels. They are coming after her. So we go to this next clip where we find out that the nursing home deaths might not have been all from COVID. You know what? I'll just let, what is his name? I'll let Joe LeBlanc give you his explanation. Here we go.
So let me ask you this. Did loneliness kill old people as much as the bug killed old people?
It's hard to tell because we really don't know the numbers on the bugs, but it's generally accepted in my industry that the loneliness, the isolation was the number one killer.
And you're saying we don't know how many people died?
Correct.
What makes you say that?
Well, I know we're going to talk about it, but the truth of it is, I think you have to start with definitions. And pre-COVID, the definitions have been nursing home and assisted livings, and then assisted livings are broken down from there. But the truth of it is, in the state of Michigan, I think there's roughly 135,000 beds that are
for old folks.
For old folks, long-term care, nursing home, and assisted living.
Like real quickly, nursing home is like federally licensed. They get federal money, Medicaid and stuff, and everything else is assisted living.
Correct.
All the nomenclature bullshit.
That's correct.
Okay, so they're all old folks' homes.
They are.
Okay.
And when you think too, and you got to go back to, the focus was put on the nursing homes, which was understandable. But if you go back and you think about it, it's like the number one most vulnerable population was the elderly in general, not just nursing home,
yes.
Elderly. And we serve the elderly. We serve many of the exact same issues and diagnoses, COPD, CHF, we have.
Don't do that.
Diabetics. Sorry. But, we're all in the same field here. But 2/3 of the industry they were not considered healthcare workers.
Yeah.
2/3. That's 89,000 potential residents that the people that serve that industry were not considered healthcare workers. There were no benefits. There was
I love them. I do.
Okay, so what he's saying there is that we don't know the numbers. These people that are caring for the elderly in a health capacity were not considered healthcare workers. They got no benefits. Even though Governor Whitmer forced COVID patients into their facilities, they were not considered healthcare workers. I have got a lot of questions for Governor Whitmer. I've got a lot of questions for a lot of our elected officials, and I've asked some of the questions. So, here's your chance to put your question into the comments. I want to know what questions you have about COVID. What questions have still not been answered for you sufficiently? Who would you want to talk to? Here in Ottawa County, we've kind of got a limited number. We are trying to put in politicians that are going to stand up for the people rather than say, oh, we've got a mandate, let's shut down the schools. We are trying to put in politicians that will get rid of things like the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusions Office, which I'm not sure needs to be there. I'm going to ask for access to the training that our county officials are getting, that our county workers are getting, and we're going to kind of figure out what is going on with our county in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion, COVID, defending the rights of the people to keep and bear arms, to have control over their children's education, and for the taxpayer to decide what happens in a public school that they are funding. I don't want to pay taxes for children to go watch drag shows. I don't want to pay taxes to have the government tell me that I can't have a gun. And quite frankly, I don't want to pay taxes so that Governor Whitmer can shove a bunch of COVID positive patients into nursing homes with elderly people. That's just not what I want. I want to control the government. I don't want to have the government control me, and I think a lot of other people here in Ottawa County feel the same way. All right, so speaking of governors, the gubernatorial debate that Charlie Leduff so lamented happened last night. Yes, last night. So we are going to watch a little bit. I pulled up just a single clip that we are going to talk about. And once again, I have absolutely no recollection of what this clip is. I just know that when I listened to it, I said, that needs to go on the show today. So we're going to find out together. Obviously, probably when I watch it, everything will come flooding back to me. So here we go.
Tudor, Michigan faces many harsh realities that require a governor who can separate fact from fiction. Local election officials from both parties, the Michigan Auditor General, even Republican state senators say... ML?
Because I had... No, I didn't. I had the volume way up. What's going on? All right, this is a little quiet. So I'm going to crank my output audio. And I'm going to be very quiet so that we can hear. You're going to have to listen very hard. Here we go.
Tudor, Michigan faces many harsh realities that require a governor who can separate fact from fiction. Local election officials from both parties, the Michigan Auditor General, even Republican state senators say election fraud did not occur here. How can Michiganders trust candidates to lead our state who continue to promote the fantasy that the 2020 election was corrupted or stolen?
We're going to be realistic here.
Yes. Okay, so the question was, this guy from the Detroit Free Press is asking about, how can we trust Republicans that continue to promote this fantasy that the election was stolen? So here's just a little back and forth, I think. No, this isn't the back and forth, but Tudor Dixon gives a great answer, and I wanted us to hear it.
Right, and agree that fraud happens in all elections. But in this election, we had a unique situation where we had a Secretary of State who went against the rules, changed the rules at the last minute, and decided to do things that were considered unlawful. So that alone was fraudulent when you have someone who decides to reduce the signature match after running a campaign saying, we don't need voter ID because we've got the signature match and that's perfect. And then when you get rid of that, what does that mean, Jocelyn? It looks a little fishy to me. And then on top of that, she sends out absentee ballot applications to everybody in the state. And we got $12 million from Zuckerberg. Then guess what? We are the only state in the nation that didn't have any government oversight in that money. So where did it go? Well, let's see. That went to that went into a nonprofit and then was filtered out to Democrat consultants that went out to get out the vote for guess who? Democrats. So was there ballot harvesting? That's pretty hard to find. They have a great system, and it helps when your Secretary of State is willing to do illegal things to help them.
All right, thank you, Tudor Dixon. Ralph Rebrand,
good answer.
Rebuttal.
Ooh, sorry.
In 2005, the Federal Election Commission established what was called the Carter-Baker Commission, and it said there are two ways to steal elections. One is, as Tudor had mentioned, mass mail-out ballots. The other one was lack of signature verification. Those are the very things, those are the playbook that they took to steal our election. I've always been telling people that Antrim County is God's gift to the nation. If 80% Republican county can vote in favor of Biden, that's ridiculous, folks. And we know that was fraud because we know it was fraud.
All right, thank you. All right, the last question in this round.
All right, so we don't necessarily know that it was fraud. Okay, that was just super loud. I said sorry. It was just super loud in my ears, so my apologies for all the distractions. So We know Antrim County was a counting error of some kind. Something got lost in transcription. But Tudor's point was correct. We do know there's fraud. There's fraud in every election. And so I guess the point that Democrats make that we don't need to make elections more secure is kind of silly. We definitely need elections to be secure. Whether or not you think that the amount of fraud made the presidential election be overturned or not, we all want a secure election. We all want our vote to count. So we need to vote in people that are serious about securing our election. And I would say that voter ID or ID at the ballot box, ID at the polling places is not a bad idea. Everybody that votes has an ID. You need an ID to get cigarettes. You need an ID to buy alcohol. You need an ID to adopt a dog. You do not need one to cast your ballot at this point in Michigan. So with that, we'll leave it there. I've got another show coming up next week that hopefully we've got some great content for. We're going to be talking to the DEI office at some point in the next week. I very much hope. So we will have some of that content. I'm sure that the Republicans will be out on the campaign trail. I'm sure Dana Nessel will say something ridiculous again. She'll advocate for strip shows in schools next, and we'll have that to talk about. So I am going to let you guys go. Thank you again so much for being a part of the show, being an informed citizen here in Ottawa County or in West Michigan or in Michigan or of the world. If you're just, perusing Michigan and you wanted to be informed about what's going on in Ottawa County, here it is. Thank you so much for being a part of it. And if you like the content that you're getting, share it with a friend, share it with other people in Ottawa County, in West Michigan, in Michigan. Because I'm somewhat unique. I'm an actual right-wing person with actual right-wing opinions that have actually been questioned, and I know kind of the answers to a lot of the questions that you will not get answered in the mainstream media. Why? Because, well, they kind of slant Democrat. So if you want media, if you want news that is not going to slant Democrat, hit that like button, subscribe, share it with a friend, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook. And that is all I've got for you guys. Once again, thank you so much, and we will see you again next week for another great show. Have a great week and a great 4th of July. Remember to celebrate responsibly, but have a ton of fun. I'm Anon Don. This is the Homes Politicast.